Welcome in, everybody, to the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. My name's Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. And our first show that is about 98% full basketball. We will delve into the football game that we had this past Saturday a little bit. Before we get going, though, of course, please hit the share button, hit the like button, and you can watch it here on Facebook. You can watch it here on YouTube. If you search YouTube, Upper Cumberland Reporter, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. And then every single time that we go live, it will notify you that we have gone live. Every single time that we post a video, it will notify you that we posted a new video. We're starting to transfer a lot of our stuff that we normally do on Facebook over to YouTube, maybe a little bit more user friendly over on YouTube. And one of the bigger reasons that we're kind of starting to start that transition.
Facebook's robbing us blind.
That too. Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. So we're going to go on YouTube where they actually want to pay us for bringing a bunch of viewers to their platforms.
Yes. But you can also share the YouTube link to Facebook. That would also help us out. Before we get going, let's shout out all of our all-inclusive sponsors this season. Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate Club, Wyndham, Hall Sports and Outdoors, The Real Estate Collective, Tee Up and Baxter, Noah and Goose were there today. Fire and Vine, this show is presented by Fire and Vine. Amonette's Eagle Auction and Realty, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network. It's the Watson Chevy is the dealership. This is the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network. The Quality Family, Domino's, the Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, and Swallows Insurance. Appreciate all of those all-inclusive sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible, including this show. A big shout out to Fire and Vine. You can see them right there. Right there. We got a lot to get into tonight.
Yeah.
I think we got most of the formalities out of the way. I'll say it one more time. Please hit the share button. Hit the like button, comment along with us. We do have the stream pulled up so we can see your comments, and I can also pull up the comments here in front of me, and I can post them as we did last week with the football show. I thought that went pretty well. Kind of, if you have questions about what we're talking about, we can put that up on the screen, and we can talk about it as well. Basketball-wise, as we transition from football to basketball now, the way we start shows is going to be a little bit more different. It's not going to be where Noah was wrong and where he was right. Now there's a lot more factors involved. So there's going to be a lot more times that he is wrong just because the way that basketball is.
I don't know about that. But yeah, it's just different. This is a different sort of show. It's not, football is much more, here's the game, here's the pick.
Yeah.
Moving on, and we do some of that here, but a lot more just looking at a bunch of different things going on, more assessment than hot take. Now there's gonna be some hot takes, but it is a little bit different, and I'm excited to be here. It's a brisk night in the Upper Cumberland, so but thanks to Fire and Vine for being a presenting sponsor, and there's lots of very interesting things as we're getting into kind of the ending portion of the early portion of the season now.
Yeah. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to go through the UC top 5 on the girls' side, then on the boys' side, and then we'll shortly wrap up the 4A state championship that we were able to go to last week, and we'll talk about the Macon County Tigers and bringing home the gold ball, and then we'll get into the girls' basketball side. We'll flip sides to the boys' basketball side, and that's how tonight will go. So we started off with the UC girls' top 5. Noah, should we start at 5 or number 1?
Let's go 5-1. Let's work our way up.
5-1. Few changes, same 5 teams, but few changes here in the UC top 5 this week. We start at the number 5 spot on the girls' side, the Pickett County Lady Bobcats. Big win last night against Stone Memorial, 74-63. Again, no Callie Reeder for this 5-1 team. They do expect her back. We'll get into that a little bit more later on in the show, but a big win for Pickett County yesterday against a solid Stone Memorial team on the road.
Yeah, Stone Memorial team that once again is a lot better than their record indicates. I think they're 2-6 now. Mike Buck is just scheduling crazy, and he's done it the past several years, and it worked out last year. They obviously caught their stride late. They're hoping to do that as well when they get a Courtney Hedrick back, when they get a Lauren Clark into the district tournament. Obviously, that'll be a big boost for Stone, but still as good a win as you can get over a 2-6 team for Pickett County. And you're right. There is a little bit of, and for both the 5 and the 4, that single A versus maybe 3A or 4A teams, and how you compare those two. A good win for them, and I'm very curious to see what this Pickett County team looks like when they get Callie Reeder back. Because, listen, they've dominated Jellicoe. Jellicoe's terrible. But a pretty close game yesterday, a competitive game. Obviously, they lost to Smith County. We saw a ton of dominance starting about this portion of the season last year. And when they get Callie Reeder back in, is this a Pickett team that now starts beating people consistently? 15, 20 points, 15, 20 points. Is that an unfair standard? Absolutely. But the expectation is to win a state championship there in Birdstown to go back to back. And you would expect them to start hitting that stride here as they get further into the season, especially once they get the rotations down and Callie Reeder back into the lineup.
We'll talk more about Pickett County coming up a little later on. Casey, I do see your comment. I do want to talk about that a little bit as well. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. The Clark Range Lady Buffaloes are at the number 4 spot. They relate to this comment by Casey as well. Clark Range 7-1 on the season. They beat Jackson County 51-46. Jackson County's had a good start to the season as well, so this is a good win for Clark Range, and I think it'll look even better on down the road. Clark Range has had a great start to the season, still just the one loss, and still slotted in here at the number 4 spot.
Absolutely. And the only thing with Clark Range is they're having a knack right now where they're up big and then letting teams back in. Kind of talked about with Cookville last week. And it's not against bad teams, but when you go up by 15 in the third quarter, you really want to see that lead separate. And there's been several times this year with Clark Range where all of a sudden it's a 2-point game in the fourth quarter when they were up double digits in the second half. So is that nitpicking? Absolutely. But on the top 5, we have to nitpick some because everybody on this list has one loss. Yep. They are really, really good. But I love what we've seen out of Clark Range. They're playing a good schedule as well. They're passing their test as they move through the early portion of the season. So sure looks like those two teams have kind of separated from the pack with Pickett and Clark Range in that single A district. And there's going to be some wars between those two as they battle for supremacy in a district to where your top 2 in this district, you're going to be in sub-state. And so
possibly state.
Yes. And so you can flip a coin right now for me between Pickett and Clark Range. And when Callie Reeder gets back, it may flip back. But another good win for Clark Range to go and beat a Jackson County team that's playing pretty good basketball.
The deciding factor for us just here in this spot, Clark Range has the like opponent victory against Smith County. Smith County beat Pickett County, so that's kind of where we have them at 4-5 right now. And obviously, like Noah said, that can definitely change here in the next few weeks. Here's where we have a change at the number 3 spot. The White County Warriorettes dropped to number 3. Really nothing for their own doing. They're 8-1 on the season, have had a great start to the season. They beat Cannon County 55-46. Number 2, the Cookeville Lady Cavaliers. They jump up to this number 2 spot because they beat Farragut, the team that beat White County, which is their only loss so far this season. Beat Farragut 42-28 last night.
Yeah, and you mentioned with White County, this is not them dropping, quote unquote, is not a result of what they've done. And really, it's not even the fact of the like opponent for me, in that Farragut beat Sparta and Cookeville beat Farragut, because I've been really consistent. A Saturday game, first week of the season, when you got a doubleheader, I don't really care. That's not going to be a thing that I hold against them. To me, it's how impressive of a victory it was for Cookeville against that really good Farragut team to hold them to 28 points. So that's why Cookeville moves up. And we were all in agreement on this, and maybe you have a little bit of different reasoning for you, but that, to me, that's it. Cookeville they have one loss. It's one they probably should have won against Knox Webb. But that was a really nice bounce back win. And to hold that Farragut team down to 28 points is a testament to Cookeville's defense. I know we're going to talk more about that here a little bit later. But for Sparta, they go and beat Cannon County again. Now, they beat them by like 37 the first time, by 11 the second time. I'm sure Coach Johnson would love to have beat them by 37 again, but that's a good Cannon County team that was able to make some adjustments. So right now, 7 AAA. Man, there's a really, really, really pair of great teams at the top of that district as of now. And that's not to say a couple of others couldn't enter that discussion as well. And for Cookeville, great win for the Lady Cavs. And we mentioned that was a team through 3 games, had the best resume on the board. If they would have beat Knox Webb, we would have had a longer discussion about them maybe even being above up to number 1. That's tough with how the number 1 ranked team is playing right now, but a Cookeville team that, for my money, absolutely deserves to be on the upper echelon of this list.
And of course, we'll break down all of these teams and more coming up in a little bit here in the show. The number 1 team are the Upperman Lady Bees at 8-1 on the season. They beat Franklin County 67-29 last night. This Upperman Lady Bees team, they made a change in the starting lineup, and offensively, they are really starting to find their stride, which is scary because they've been good defensively all season long, and now the offense is starting to heat up.
Yeah, really since 2021, the discussion has been, and kind of the joke with us has been, oh, Upperman wins in a blowout and it was 48-36, right? That those 12-point games felt like 25-point games. The rest of this state has a problem because now they're 25-point games and they're 30-point games. And I love the move of Ava May Allen into the starting lineup for a bunch of reasons. This is an Upperman team that we know they sit in that 2-3, but they always start man-to-man. Ava May Allen is a great man-to-man defender. So they have her in there. That gives them a little energy. It gets the ball in the hands of Gracie Butler, Taylor Delente, and Sadie South a little bit quicker because a lot of times it's Gracie Butler now running the point up into the half court early in games. That had been the bugaboo, right? Even in the state tournament, right? That run last year, they would be down 8-2, timeout called, then they go on a run. Now they're up 10-0. Totally different ball game. And it also, Cora Bass coming off the bench provides a big boost for this Upperman team because somebody else's 6 guard coming into the game probably isn't very good. And Cora Bass comes in and provides them really solid on the defensive end, can run the point the way that Dana McWilliams wants it to be run. It has uncorked something here. They put her, Ava May Allen, in the starting lineup, and now their next 3 games, 2 of which, listen, Franklin County is not bad. GCA is pretty good. They got a girl who's going D1 at point guard who had 2 points in the fourth quarter of that game. And Creekwood could be a state tournament team, and they've blown them all out in a row. So it's an Upperman team who has roared to life and now is pretty firmly established, I think, for us as the number 1 team on this top 5.
So once again, our UC girls top 5, Upperman at number 1, Cookeville at number 2, the White County Warriorettes at number 3, Clark Range is at 4, and Pickett County is at 5. Let's move on to the boys' side. We'll start at number 5. We'll work our way up. Again, same 5 teams, but just a few movements here in the top 5. Go ahead.
Right now, it's a UC top 4. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like this 5th spot, there's about 8 teams that could be here. Yeah. Nobody has cemented themselves. There are 4 teams who have separated, and there are 2 teams who have way separated.
Yeah.
The top 1 is clearly ahead. 2, we're all really interested by. And then it's a pretty big gap. 3 and 4 are clearly there. And then put some names in the bucket. And that's not a shot at the number 5 team we're really interested in, especially if they get a certain young man back. But right now, it's like 2, bunch of other teams.
There were about 3 teams that we kind of threw around for this 5 spot. We never really thought about changing it just because we'll get into this, but there is a player possibly coming back later this week for this team. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The White County Warriors are still at this number 5 spot, 2-5 on the year. I know the record doesn't look great, but again, the football guys are getting their way back into it. They fell to Cannon County, a good Cannon County team, in their last game last night, 64-52. Tucker Pinion had 20 points in the game last night. Trip Pinion might be coming back on Friday. So that's why we're just still holding on that pause button for just a little bit with this White County Warriors team. We know what this team is capable of, or at least we think we have an idea of what this team is capable of, and that is why they're still at this number 5 spot, and will definitely have some chances to move up in this UC top 5.
2-1 last week, right? And that was they were 0-4 last week. We had them in this spot and said, hey, if they lose out again, they're going to be off the list. And they won 2 games, and then they lost out of a pretty good Cannon County team. And now if Trip Pinion is in fact coming back, right, and it popped up on my feed. We had a moment last year, I think it was right after Frank's Christmas shootout, where I said, York is 7-0 from this point, where they had gone 7-0 after about this point in December. If Trip does return on Friday, now's when the season starts in my mind for White County, right? If Stone played without Cade Capps and lost a bunch of games, we'd all go, yeah, but Cade Capps isn't there. And if Upperman played without Ty Cobb, we'd go, if Jackson County played without Will McCrary, right? If Pickett plays without Amonette, you kind of go, basketball is a different game.
Sure.
We kind of feel that way with Trip. And so when Tripp gets back in there, he helps everybody else slide into their positions a little bit better. He obviously helps them tremendously on the defensive end. He's going to give you 12 points a night driving into the lane. He's going to put the team on his back. They went 2-1 last week. In a world where there's no clear-cut number 5, I'm very much okay with Sparta still being in this spot.
White County at number 5, and this is kind of where the change comes in here at the number 3 and the number 4 spot. The Pickett County Bobcats are now at number 4. Fell to a very good Stone Memorial team last night, 82-57, and I think that is more so just kind of the classification change. Pickett County been playing some really good basketball. Started to make a run in the third quarter, and then Stone Memorial really closed the door in the fourth.
Yeah, I love it for Stone. I don't love it for Pickett. Because this was kind of a problem last year, right? They would beat up on some lower teams and we go, man, Pickett looks really good. And then they face somebody that's kind of upper echelon and they wouldn't be able to get over the hump. And this one was ugly. Like, I hear you that it got a little bit tight in the third quarter, but it's a 25-point game. And so that's the first, and this is kind of my feeling. That's the first real test we've seen Pickett County have. Mm-hmm. They didn't pass it. Now, I totally trust Coach Amonette to go back to the drawing board and have his team ready to go the next time out. And I'm still a believer in this Pickett County team that 1A classification, although I do have an eye on those Bulldogs in Salina. It's one of those teams we talked about maybe in that 5 spot. Clay County with the Adams brothers and Lance Burchett back and Rob Edwards coaching. That district may be a tighter race than we thought if Clay continues to ascend a little bit here. So it is a little bit of early gut check time for Pickett. You see where some of your shortcomings are. I'm cool if you lose. We had Stone at number 2 last week, but it needs to get a little bit tighter than that the next time those two teams meet up.
So Pickett County at number 4, and they will play later on this season. Jackson County moves up to the number 3 spot because they're still undefeated, and they've got some really good wins now stacking up on the season. And again, we'll break down more of these teams coming up later on the boys portion of the show. They beat Clark Range last night 68-39, and now 6-0 on the season.
Absolutely. Would love to see some more signature wins maybe there for Jackson County, but you can only play who you played. They took care of business in dominant fashion against Clark Range, and they've got a monster in Will McCrary and a different kind of player, right? He's not one of these shooting guards that's just out there chucking up threes. He's a big boy in the paint, which I appreciate. And he's super athletic in there and just knows his way around the interior really well. Jackson County, man, they keep ascending week after week. They keep ascending. Now it's going to be tough for them to ascend any further with these two teams.
Yeah. The top two, it's not changing until they play each other. And even then, it still might not change. Stone Memorial at number 2, Upperman at number 1. Stone Memorial 8-1 on the season. Obviously beat Pickett County last night, 82-57. Upperman beat Franklin County 88-36. They've gotten 3 blowouts in a row now, and they got a really close win against Oakland last Thursday. That's been their only close game this season. These 1 and 2 teams are the teams that we have said have separated themselves from the pack, and Upperman we feel like even has a step on Stone Memorial right now.
Yeah, Upperman 6-0, 5 total blowouts. And Franklin County, they got some problems. That thing 2 minutes into the game, 1 minute into the game was over.
Evan Huddleston had 14 points in the first quarter.
And that's the thing that kind of, they're coming out back-to-back just total dominant victories. And the quarter they had against GCA, where GCA was up 19-18 at the end of the first, and then it was 48-19 at the end of the second. There are not many teams who can do that against anybody, and GCA is competent. Franklin County's not. Pickett or Stone with the huge win over Pickett County, Cade Caps is unbelievable. For me, and we'll talk about it, we're going to really learn a lot about Stone Memorial on Saturday when they travel to Baxter to take on Loretto.
Yeah.
If they can beat Loretto, you won't hear me say that it's that Upperman is separated. Because right now, I think we all three feel like Upperman is separated. Mm-hmm. They're 6-0. They were the preseason number 1, and they've given us no reason not. Ty Cobb is insane. Bronston Chapin and Colton Johnson are just bullies in the best way in the lane. Evan Huddleston's scoring at a quick rate. Landon Hall has become a really a significant weapon for them. They've got shooters, they've got defenders, they've got size, they got everything you want. But if Stone finds a way to beat that Loretto team, which theoretically is not a good matchup with their size, it would be a great win for Stone. These two teams have definitely separated from the pack in the Upper Cumberland right now.
So once again, our UC top 5 on the boys' side. The Upperman Bees remain at number 1. Stone Memorial is at number 2. The Jackson County Blue Devils vault up to the number 3 spot, while Pickett County falls to number 4, and White County holds serve at number 5. Again, there's a few teams that we're looking at for that number 5 spot, but again, Trip Pinion is coming back shortly, so we're going to wait at least another week until we possibly make a change at that number 5 spot. All right, we're going to switch gears for just a little bit here. We're going to talk about Macon County because we're going to wrap up the football season, put a bow on it, and send it off before we fully get into basketball season as the Macon County Tigers bring home the 4A state championship. They beat Melrose on Saturday, 45-14. Got to a running clock with less than 4 minutes to play in that game. And both teams kind of feeling each other out there in the first quarter, fumbles on both sides. And then Macon County was finally able to strike in the second quarter and led at halftime 17-0. Melrose did cut it to 10 in the third quarter, but never really had any momentum. And they could not stop the Macon County offense. They just got into the I formation in the second half. Luke Gammon was calling the plays, and they went and scored a lot of points in the second half.
Macon County straight up better.
Yeah.
We saw it on tape, felt really confident in that. Melrose is not very well coached. They're very undisciplined, and they just weren't as athletic as they thought they were. They weren't as fast as they thought they were. They weren't as good as they thought they were. For my money, I think clearly Macon, Anderson, Upperman, Sparta, Greenville were all clearly better than that team. You put Melrose
probably better than that team too.
Correct.
County may have even
Correct.
been better.
You put Melrose in Region 4A. Maybe they make the playoffs as a 4 seed, and I don't say that as a joke. I think they would have struggled with teams like DeKalb County and Stone Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all that to say, Macon County ran the gauntlet, and they had the right to have a coronation because they had to earn it weeks 2, 3, and 4 of the postseason, and they went out there and earned it, and then they earned the right to have a pretty dominant victory in the state championship game, and they did. There's no asterisks, but remember this, they totally deserve to win that state championship. What a story for Zach Borders. Number 4 gets 4 touchdowns after just broken collarbone on 3 separate occasions. And now he plays a full senior season. He becomes the leading rusher all time in a single season at Macon County. And really, the ability to just go into the I formation and run the most simple play in football. I mean, that's what they did. They ran the most simple play in tackle football 30 times in the second half. And
they couldn't stop it.
There was no chance they were going to stop it. Total dominance. Congratulations to Macon. As you said, putting a bow on the season. Go watch the cinematic recap if you haven't already. But just congratulations to them. They deserve to win. And I'm happy for Kyle Shoulders and that staff. They worked really hard this year, and they deserve to be the state champs, and they are.
Zach Borders was named the MVP, 25 carries for 250 yards, 10 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns. Luke Gammon caught a touchdown pass from Gabe Borders. Eli Gammon able to kick a field goal in that game as well. Pure domination for the Macon County Tigers to bring home their first gold ball in football as they went total offense over 400 yards and ran for 370 yards total with 5 touchdowns on the ground. And you mentioned it, they ran the gauntlet, beating Upperman in round 2, White County in the quarterfinals, Anderson County in the semifinals, and then Melrose in the championship. So a tip of the cap to the Macon County Tigers. And football is now officially done with. As Noah said, go watch the recap. Goose spent a lot of time on it. It's about 10 minutes long, and it is well worth your time. After we're done with our show, of course.
Yes,
of course. Watch the recap.
And watch it on YouTube for me.
Yeah, watch it on YouTube. Let's talk some girls basketball. Obviously, we talked a little bit about it in the UC Top 5. We're going to talk more about it here in this portion of the show. Let's start with some really good defenses that we've seen this season. And we alluded to the fact that Upperman and Cookeville's defense has just been a step above almost everybody else so far this season. We'll start it off with talking about the Lady Bees. They're giving up 35 points per game this season to opponents. 4 times this season it's been less than 32. 3 of those games have come in their last 3 games.
This is the non-surprising thing with Upperman. This is an elite defensive basketball team. And it's really kind of amazing. Most people have been around enough, right? When I started here, it is rapidly approaching a decade ago. You know, the Upperman teams, when they were first getting on this real dynastic run that they're on right now, it was just, we will put 80 points on you any night. And then Akira Levy came in and could drop 40 on your head. And offense, 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 and amazing sharpshooters, and just Maynard to Brooks to you know Crouch and Hurst, and then there was a little shift. And when that shift happened, everybody kind of went, Upper was not gonna be as good, and they weren't as good on offense. But you don't have to score if the other team can't, and they have
You just
continued
got to
that
score
this
more than
year.
them.
That 2-3 zone is the best 2-3 zone in the state. It looks like one. It doesn't feel like one, because typically in a 2-3 you get open shots, and you don't get open shots against Upperman unless they want you to have open shots, and sometimes they want certain people to have open shots, and they can defend all 5 positions on the floor. Maggie Butler has been gigantic for them
Mhm.
defensively. She's really starting to emerge offensively. Had 8 quick points yesterday, but she has a size element in the low block and a length element. And Ella Harrell comes in off the bench and really helps them down there too. That's the area on paper you think there's a struggle for them, and they've been great. They faced some good post early. Obviously, they're great defending out on the end, on the wings with Delenti and South, and then you have Allen at the top and Bass. They're an elite defensive team, and they've been really good in the man this year. They've given up less points in the man-to-man than they have in years past before they get into that zone. So I know we're going to talk offense, but the least surprising thing to me in the world is that this Upperman team is as elite as they are on defense.
Yeah, we will talk about their offense. I want to start with the defense, though. Let's talk about the Lady Cavaliers, though, because
Yep.
they've had to change up their defense a little bit this year. They're a little bit undersized, especially in the 4A classification. And very similarly to Upperman, they've gone to the 2-3 zone this season, and it has been tremendous. They're also only allowing 38 points per game, and they've played one heck of a schedule. Now, granted, they haven't played as many games, but they've
Yep.
played one heck of a schedule so far, beating Stone Memorial, McMinn Central. They fell to Knox Webb in a game that they think they should have won, that we think they should have won as well. And York and Farragut, they got wins against. Most impressive of that one was the Farragut win last night. They only allowed 28 points to a good Farragut team that they can score points, and they've got a couple of really nice players. KJ McNeely, one of them, Trinity Curry with a lot of size, a post player inside, and they were really able to slow down Curry enough and really pretty much shut down KJ McNeely, who has been scoring up to 25 points a game at times this season.
Yeah, and I'm really gonna tip my cap to Jamie Gillis, because in years past, listen, they could, and sometimes I thought they play a little, me from the sidelines, play a little bit too much man. I was like, man, they really got to work on a zone. And they just, and they'd have, right? You think about a game a couple of years ago where Reese Beatty just tore them apart. And like, man, get into a zone. You get into a, like, I know you've got these great defense, get into a zone. And they have gone into the zone this year, and it's been really, really good.
Mhm.
And they still have that man. And the thing I like is that the zone continues to be good, because early on in the year, I think if you turn on Cookville tape, you just, oh, they're going to play man to man against us, and maybe you catch teams by surprise. But Farragut should have expected that zone was coming, and they did a really great job playing it. So it seems like the players are getting more comfortable in this zone defense, and they're going to be able to play man to man against some teams. But because of the makeup of this team without an Isabel Garcia, if they face a bigger team, you're going to have to get into that 2-3 some. And they've shown they can do that really, really well. So, and with the strength of their teams, that could be a really fast zone. I mean, Carolee Gilbert's as quick
Yeah.
as a guard can get. Allie Gillis can scoot. Charlie Roby can really go. Macy Hudson's got good speed. So, I love the way they play. Obviously, we moved them up in the top 5 because of that defensive effort that they had. Also, a little bit different because they aren't scoring as much as we've seen them scores in years past, but you don't have to if you're allowing 38 points per game.
So I asked Coach Gillis about that yesterday in our halftime interview about the offense. It hasn't been scoring as much, and she made a good point. When you're playing in the 2-3 zone, you can't get out in the transition
Yeah,
as much as you can in the man-to-man,
absolutely.
and that is where a lot of their offense came from last year because they are so fast. So you're not able to have the same amount of opportunities that you did last year. They found some of their offensive stride there in the third quarter. They were able to build their lead and then continue to do that in the fourth, and I thought it was a really good point. When you're sitting back in the 2-3 zone, you're going to slow them down defensively, but it's also going to slow your offense down just a little bit on the other side.
And to me, that's more impressive. To win a game 42-28 is better than winning a game 76-50 because you have to be engaged for 32 minutes
Yeah.
defensively to hold a team to 28 points. You're talking about extremely limiting their amount of, second chance rebounds,
Yep.
their ability to get out and run in transition. You're playing good transition defense before getting into that zone. That to me is the hallmark of great teams. And what do we say always? Maybe the first time I'll say it this year. When we get into the state tournament, very rarely, especially on the girls' side, are games 80-60, right? They're 40-36. Everything tightens up. And so their ability to play this way, I think, is longer lasting than maybe some teams in the past where they're just trying to outscore you going down the floor.
So we've talked about some really good defenses. Let's switch gears and talk about these offenses. I'll start it off with the Upperman offense because in years past, especially last year, been hammering the defense. Even at the start of this season, it was the defense. They've made a change. Ava May Allen is now into the starting lineup. Core Bass comes off the bench, and they still get a good amount of playing time at that point guard spot. But with that change, it seems like the offense has started to find their rhythm, especially here in these last 3 games.
You don't want recency bias. And obviously, I call most of the Upperman games, so I get it. And we bounce stuff off of each other. Jacobs was doing a ton of Cookville. Goose is all over the place. This feels different, what
Yeah.
we've seen the past week out of the Lady
Well,
Bees.
and it's and kind of to help you out too, it's a different leading score almost every single night.
Correct. And really saw it before they make the change. That
Mhm.
Shelbyville game, and it was tough to tell because Shelbyville's not very good. But since that, they have played so well. And listen, Sadie South is significantly better than she was a year ago.
Yeah.
Taylor Delente's a bona fide superstar now. Like she ran a half with 2 or 4 points yesterday and dropped 13 in the third quarter like it was nothing. Her and Sadie South just rain in threes. Now Delente has a drive game that she didn't really have last year. Gracie Butler is tremendous at getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line. And Maggie Butler's a gigantic changing piece for this team. She's now getting much more comfortable. She's stepping out, hitting threes. She's getting inside. They have a lineup where all 5 girls can shoot the three. Most of them can drive to the rack. It felt since Brooklyn Crouch and Jayla Cobb graduated that there's been a kind of a ceiling on this offense that, like, man, if you can go in and put 60 on Upperman, you beat them, which number one is very tough to do.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like this team now, if they had to, could beat you 63-62. Like they could get that amount of points. That's why I think it really kind of feels different, which should scare the crap out of people because they were the
Mhm.
runners up last year. And certainly on December 11th, 2024 Upperman is better than December 11th, 2023 Upperman. We'll see if in March that's the case, but not a doubt in my mind and I doubt in yours. They're better now than they were at this point a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, they look really, really connected. I think, and you said it, Sadie South looks a lot better. I think, and you got to remember, there's a lot of juniors and a lot of sophomores still on this team. So even last year, they're trying to find their roles. And now it seems like those roles have really been solidified and they're really comfortable in those roles.
One senior in the starting lineup. And just for example, how many teams is Cassie Crouch starting on in our Upper Cumberland? And she plays like 5 minutes a night. Right? She's at least starting early and you get her she's a freshman, right? But you see the skill set she has. You can see the potential there. And most teams are like, all right, we got to go and run. And if we turn the ball over, something cool. She's now able to kind of ease in a little bit. That is a reflection. Ella Harrell is playing really well
Yeah.
for this team. Gave
Yep.
them 6 points in the second quarter. They're the number one team on our top 5 for a reason. And it feels a little different. And the scary part is, remember what those 6th graders are doing. They're beating everybody by 30. And they are at Upperman Middle School, not at wherever the heck other middle school you want to be at, just by the way. So to your point, one senior in the starting lineup for this Upperman team. Very good. But they're not the only very good offense. We got a few more.
Yeah, let's talk about the top offenses that we do have in the area. Right now, it's White County and Pickett County, and they are heads and shoulders above everybody else offensively. White County, 68 points per game at the start of the season through 9 games for them, so they have a much bigger sample size. in the 90s twice this season in game number 1, and then about 4 games into the season, they can pretty much score at will. And obviously, that is scary for some of the defenses around the area. I mean, starts with Ava Jones. You've got Lakeland Grasty leading the point. Bella Winningham can light it up. Gracie Clark has been really, really good. They've got a lot of offensive weapons on this White County team.
Absolutely. And the thing that makes it interesting for Coach Dodgen's team is they all do things a little differently, right? Bella Winningham can shoot the lights out of the building. Ava Jones is a physical monster inside with her length. Grasty, great distributor of the basketball. You Clark, who can do a little bit of everything. She can drive inside. And then obviously we know how good of a defender that she is, our defensive player of the year last year. So Sparta is different than some of these other teams in our area. Maybe, and Ashlyn Selby starting to come into her own in her sophomore season as well. So they are different because of the multiplicity that they have. Now, they may not have 4 girls who can all shoot the 360%. But if you don't have a big, they can really hurt you. If you don't have a good perimeter defender, they can really hurt you. So they're a different sort of matchup. And they're this sort of team. What I'm going to be really curious to watch with Sparta this year, what happens the second time around? Because listen, this is a team that expects to be in the state championship discussion. They have that capability on the floor. And what's happened the past couple of years where they've had that similar capability? The second and the third meetings with some of these teams have been the ones that have created problems. Now, Stone beat them the first time around last year. Obviously, I'm talking about Upperman. They beat Upperman by 30. Then the second meeting's close, and the third meeting, Upperman wins. Or the fourth meeting, Upperman wins. None of us expect those two teams to meet only once. If this is a Sparta team that can stay as
only meet once, but yes,
only twice, I should say. We expect them to meet 3, 4, even potentially 5 times. My goodness, how awesome would that be?
Be great for us.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can continue to hurt teams in multiple ways, they are so dangerous. Because how do you prepare for that? Most people want to take away your best thing. I think you check that. You say, okay, we got to take away Ava Jones. We got to find a way to limit Ava Jones. Man, there's a few other girls.
They got other threats.
they could kill you, right? So that is Sparta is super dangerous because you can't just take one thing away. And if you're trying to defend Ava Jones, that leaves more openings for Bella Winningham, right? If you're trying to defend the 3, that leaves more openings for Ava Jones. So I like the way this Sparta team is built. And scoring in the 90s is tough because that means the clock is running and you're still scoring in the 90s.
A team that did that and has done that twice this season, the Pickett County Lady Bobcats. Now, their sample size is a little bit smaller, just through 5 games this season, but they have scored 192, both against Jellicoe. So, obviously, not the biggest competition. But to your point, they had a running clock for the whole second half and still scored 92 points in that second game. They scored 74 last night against Stone Memorial, and they've got some players that can shoot the rock. And mind you, they're doing all this without one of the top post players in the area in Callie Reeder, who really is massive for this team, really would have helped them in that Smith County game that they did lose last week against in that Thanksgiving Classic. So they expect her back maybe this week, maybe next week. We'll wait and see and kind of how she's feeling and trying to get back out there on the court. But she just brings a completely different dimension to both the offense and the defense for this Pickett County team. And already an offense that's scoring, again, 77 points per game through 5 games.
Super encouraging to see that. And the Callie Reeder factor is huge because, they've got huge, guard advantages, Zoe Nicholas and Emmy Lowe and company. They don't have that size element right now, that same size element that Callie Reeder brings you. So really curious to see how long it takes them to get rolling. But in this single A classification, as you saw, they got the ability to house people, which, by the way, did you know, I learned this from Jeremy last night on air, you theoretically are not allowed to run the clock the entire second half in Tennessee, even if the coaches agree. He said by rule, they're allowed to shorten the quarters, but they're not allowed to run the clock the entire second half. You can play 1-minute quarters.
Interesting.
I've seen teams agree to do it before. You saw it happen. I think that's another example of stupid. And I think we're going to talk about a stupid rule that they've started enforcing in this state out of the blue. But that's just an aside. I think Callie Reeder unlocks the ceiling for this Pickett team.
Mhm.
We have not seen them be at their best yet. And I'll be honest, when it's going to sound counterintuitive. When she gets back, the scoring may come down a little bit.
Sure.
It's going to slow the game down,
Yeah.
which is good. Because
Mhm.
again, state tournament games, sub-state games, region championship games, you're probably not now Pickett May because
I was gonna
they're
say
gonna be
that
so much better
they're
than that
go,
other.
go, go.
And they're going to be so much better than that other region.
Yeah.
Generally, though, the game tightens.
Mhm.
And having a Callie Reeder really helps you in a tightened up sort of ball game. So they're fine right now. They're very good, obviously, right now. I think we'll see what their ceiling is, which we all expect to be gold ball.
Yeah.
Is their ceiling. We're going to start to see that version of Pickett County once they get Callie Reeder back into the lineup.
Of course, Coach Brent Smith always wants to play a very, very high-paced game, and they're going to continue to do that even with Callie out there. That's what they did last year when she was out there all season long as well. Let's talk about what we have been alluding to a little bit, as Casey commented a little earlier on. It says, if UCR had a team, would the jersey have to say Upper Cumberland Reporter, or is UCR okay? Well, over these last couple of weeks, you cannot have, for example, Upperman, especially the Lady Bees, they have a jersey that says Baxter. You can't wear those anymore. Clark Range has another one that has an acronym on it that
Nobody knows
no
what it
one knows
means.
what it is, but they cannot wear that anymore. It has to say Clark Range, or it has to say Lady Buffaloes. It has to say your school name or your mascot. It cannot be anything else. Pickett County, they can't have Birdstown across the chest. Apparently, this is a new thing across TSSAA for this
Well,
season.
it is an NFHS rule.
Okay.
That has been a rule for a long time.
Sure.
That has been totally unenforced. And now the TSSAA has decided that this is their point of emphasis. What Jeremy said potentially is that, the point of emphasis was the knee pad stuff. And now that they have that relatively under control, they're going to the next thing on the list. Here's my thought. Certain things in life are just, you say, well, that's stupid. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Well, that's stupid.
Let's have a little common sense.
So now you get teed up, and the coach has to sit the game if you wear something that has any. By the way, you mentioned Baxter. Baxter Lady Bees, Tech, because it has Baxter on it. Even if it has the other teed up. It's stupid. It's just dumb. And if it's just dumb, maybe we shouldn't do it. Period in life.
Yeah.
By the way, I got a text because it's a good point. When I was going through players, and I listen, we're going through 19 schools. I'm going to forget people. Upperman, obviously, when they were dominant, they had Brooklyn Crouch, they had Jayla Cobb, and they had Abigail Johnson. Huge boost in the lane. Having players like that helps you be really good on offense and defense for a long, long time. Anyway, I neglected a major name, like a Miss Basketball level player, and so I deserve a little bit of pushback on that one. Continue on.
I was just gonna say, where was I gonna go with that?
The jerseys, stupid.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a video last night. This is a little bit separate. Kid makes a three, puts a three up in the air for 2 seconds, maybe 2 seconds, and he gets teed up for it.
Listen,
what are we doing?
Okay, so I've been pretty good. Having Jeremy helps me a lot because, he'll agree with me, and then all of a sudden I'm not an idiot. It's crazy how that works out.
Sparta is also another really good example for this, by the way.
I have sympathy for young officials, our new officials, our people who are just trying to learn. I get it. But this woe is me crap is really freaking annoying. I don't like excuses from anybody. Jacob knows this. I don't like them. I think that it's dumb. I think very lowly of you if all you have is excuses. Like, take accountability. And there are different barometers to things. The official at Morristown East for the game we did, who wanted to put on a show, you're going to get called out. You miss a call because you're clearly nervous, no problem. I'm probably going to ignore it, and then we'll just move on. If you call a tech because a kid does this after he rains a three because I saw it, I hate you. And I'm gonna call you out on air. I mean, because you're a loser to me. So there's different levels to this, and not everything is the same. And if you're out there trying your best for the kids, I got no problem. You're gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes on air. Cool, we move on. if you want the show to be about you on a Tuesday or Friday night, then I'm going to make the show about you on Tuesday or Friday night. And Jacob's going to make the show about you on Tuesday or Friday night. So the reason that we have an official shortage is not because parents are on top of officials. That's been the case forever. We got a lot of reasons in our area why there's an official shortage. But let's stop the poor baby. Poor baby. They're so mean. Stop. Just quit making excuses. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
I was just going to mention that Sparta is actually a prime example for this jersey thing. They literally have S on the middle of their court.
It is the.
I mean, they've gone by Sparta forever.
The TWSA website has Sparta Warriors as their mascot and Sparta Warriorettes. I literally, and Sparta's the perfect example.
Yeah,
because people, and there's another generation who calls Upperman Baxter and
Pickett County Birdstown.
I promise you, this is not any sort of thing about the rivalry. But back before Stone Memorial, Cumberland County was Crossville. And so you'll get people who just say that, and then it'll take me a quick second, like, got it. Clay County, they just call them Salina.
Yeah.
Sparta and White County
still Sparta
are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Literally, like, we have journalistic standards that we go by, and like it's called a style book where you address things. Sparta and White County are interchangeable. We will not put a story out that says Baxter beats whatever. We'll put a story out that says Sparta wins.
Correct.
I mean, stupid. Utterly stupid.
All right, so we got that out of the way. I did want to air that out a little bit because it is just asinine.
Great word.
There are some other teams that we would like to talk about here on the girls basketball side. We talked about some really good defenses. We talked about some really good offenses. Here are some teams that we're also paying attention to that both in the UC top 5 and maybe just outside of the UC top 5. Mentioned Clark Range. They're playing some really good basketball right now. 7-1. They beat a good Jackson County team who was 4-2 on the year. We'll talk about them coming up in a little bit as well. 51-46. Katie Hopkins, Lydia Phillips, one of the top dynamic duos across the Upper Cumberland. And the one thing you talked about in the UC top 5 is they've gotten out to some big leads in these games, and they've gotten a little bit closer. I think that's a credit to some of the other teams, but also Clark Range needs to maybe do a little bit better job of finishing these games out.
A little bit counterintuitive to what you would expect out of a Lamar Rogers coach team. That's something I expect them to get corrected because Lamar Rogers is their coach. But, that's something all coaches talk about. You get a lead, you want to put it away. You want to finish strong. You want that 4-quarter effort. So the good news is I think we've seen what Clark Range can do when they're firing on all cylinders. Katie Hopkins can ball, can flat out ball. And so if they can find a way to do that for 4 quarters, they're going to blow some people out and by a lot. That's just the next step. And that the good news is we've seen that they have that capability. It's not I think they probably can get to that next level. We know that they can. They're just going to have to do that for 4 straight quarters.
We're still keeping our eye on Smith County. They were our honorable mention for a couple of weeks in the UC Girls top 5. And then after losing the one against White County, they've kind of simmered off that just a little bit. Obviously, White County is a very good basketball team. They'll get another chance with them later on in the season. But this Smith County team has a really interesting stretch coming up. They get Gordonsville coming up on Saturday, and then Beach and Cannon County after that. Obviously, Beach up in classification. Cannon County is a very, very good matchup, and we'll kind of see what the Smith County team is really made of over these next 3 games.
Absolutely. And, you get the rivalry game that always seems to be close here recently with Gordonsville. Beach, they should hammer. Shelbyville beat Beach. I watched Shelbyville. If that game's close, I'm going to be concerned. Despite it going up in class. And the Cannon County game, maybe the most interesting one, because we've seen a lot of our teams play Cannon. We know Cannon is a competent basketball team, a team that if Smith County is going to be a top 5 team, if Smith County is going to be, right, this is in class. For a Smith County team with gold ball aspirations, you have to be able to beat a team like Cannon County, right? It's not the same as, it's not an apples to oranges comparison, right? We already have the Loretto game. Game number 1 of the season, okay. Now you're a little bit further in. I expect Coach Farrell to have his team fully ready to go. If you beat Cannon County, that's a momentum builder, and it also shows that you can play with the upper echelon in this 2A classification. In a district right now, right, if Reese Beatty gets back at the end of the regular season, How valuable could it be if Smith County is the 1 seed?
Mm,
How valuable could it be for a team that's going to be trying to work Reese Beatty back in to give yourself every opportunity? Because if you win this region, you're going to the state tournament. Even if
yes.
you get second, you've got a chance to go to the state tournament. But
Yep.
if you win it, you're definitely going. And Jackson County's nothing to scoff at either.
Mhm.
So, yes, it's a non-district game with Cannon County. But if you're going to win this district, a team like Cannon County is the caliber of a team you're going to have to be able to beat to do that.
Speaking of, in this district, the York girls are 5-3. They get Knox Catholic coming up this weekend. They've played a pretty solid schedule early on this season. Jackson County 4-2 to start this season, and their 2 losses, they haven't been bad losses. A close loss to Macon County in the 3A classification, and then to Clark Range last night. They get Red Boiling Springs and Trousdale County coming up these next 2 games, and probably some winnable ball games for them.
And that is a Macon County team that is on the resurgence.
Yeah, much better.
Remember, they were so young the past couple of years. More experience. They got a really good player there in Lafayette. So this is a Macon County team that a loss to them is not terrible,
Mm-hmm.
and a win, which Livingston has,
Yep.
is good. So Jackson County, and right now, right. If Reese was on York, this is a different discussion.
Correct.
But with Reese Beatty being out, we take a much longer look at Jackson County, because now a district that probably is going to be York running away could be a 3-team race. So Jackson County is a team that I think we're keeping a very close eye on right now.
Speaking of Livingston Academy, they improved to 5-2 with a win last night against Clay County. They travel to Macon County coming up on Saturday, so we haven't forgot about the Lady Wildcats. They're obviously going to have another good basketball team. You've got Ellie Butler, one of the best players in the area, and they're also right on the outside of the UC top 5 looking in right now.
And that was a blowout.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a curb stomping.
Clay County has played a heck of a schedule to start.
My
this
goodness,
season, by the way,
they certainly have. And that was a dominant victory for Livingston Academy, who does have pieces outside of Ellie Butler. So now they got a bona fide superstar, and that helps you a lot. But you got a girl who can go out there and give you 30. That really helps. And most teams do not have that. Last time I checked, Leslie Riddle can still coach.
Yep.
To me, every year we kind of have this team. Last year it was Stone, where everyone's kind of got their eyes on these other teams, right? We were all talking about Upperman and White County and CC and Livingston, and Stone was just like, hey, we'll come ruin your season real quick.
And they literally did
And
that.
Livingston Academy is 5-2.
Yeah.
And while everyone's talking about White County and Upperman, and rightfully so, hey, by the way, yeah, we'll talk a lot about White County and Upperman playing each other, but any of those teams going to Livingston to play in Hogeye country could be a little bit problematic. So that is the team that, to me right now, is very much assured or very safely in that 3rd spot in that district, that could easily win a couple of games and find themselves further up when we get into the district tournament.
All right, let's switch gears and move it over to the boys' side. We'll talk about some of these teams that are in the UC top 5. We don't have to spend as much time on them, and then the teams that are outside the UC top 5, I would like to spend some time on. We'll start it off with Upperman and Stone Memorial. We talked about it in the UC top 5, how these two have separated themselves, and some big points that I would like to point out with these two teams. First off, with Upperman, obviously, it starts with Ty Cobb. He had a triple-double last night, 15, 10, and 11, or 15, 11, and 10 assists being the triple of the double. Cobb is averaging 26 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and just over 2 steals. They got an interesting game with Tennessee Heat coming up on Saturday. The Stone Memorial team, 8-1 on the year, have not lost since just a 3-point loss to a very good Hardin Valley team. Obviously, the big win against Pickett County last night. Cade Capps, he's still Cade Capps, having a Mr. Basketball season so far, 31 points per game. These are without the Pickett County stats last night, by the way. 7.5 rebounds, 2 assists on 48% shooting. And Jack Cordell is a very, very good number 2. 13 points, 5 rebounds on 57% shooting. And you talked about it. They get a really fun matchup with Loretto coming up on Saturday. Loretto's a 2A team, but they start a 6'5 player and a 6'8" player coming up on Saturday, according to the starters that I received on Monday. So those could change, I guess.
Yeah, Loretto's really good. So first with Upperman, Ty Cobb. I don't remember the last time
It's really impressive. I mean, especially in high school
That's
basketball.
insane.
Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
52-point game. Because here's another point. You mentioned his scoring stats. His stats are being hurt significantly
Yeah.
by these blowouts. Like, because if they're close game,
Because
right?
he's not playing the
2 days
majority of
ago,
them.
GCA, he had 20 in the first half. They're up big. He only has 2 in the second half. I think he had 13 in the first half or 15 in the first half yesterday, and they now have scored again in the second half. So, and obviously they've only played in 6 games to this point. So,
Right.
and that's not a shot at anybody else's stats. I'm just saying if they were in closer games, they're also hurt significantly by the fact that this team's really freaking good around here. And rightfully so. You have to do everything you can to slow down Ty Cobb if you're an opponent. And he would kind of, last night, their face guard him. He kind of go stand in the corner, and they play 4-on-4, and therefore we're better than Franklin County score by a lot. And if you take Ty Cobb off this team, they're still really, really good. And that's the thing that makes this Upperman team go to a different planet. Now, he's still unfreaking believable.
Mhm.
Find me a sophomore better than this kid, and I'll pay you money. In this state.
Brian Haggard is also a really good sophomore.
Correct.
They had fun squaring off against each other.
But Ty is just, he's so good at everything. That game with Tennessee, very interesting. Tennessee Heat beat Cookville.
Yeah.
That's a real game.
Yeah.
For Upperman on Saturday night, and it's absolutely a trap game because in 2 days after they're going to Universal.
Yep.
And so you're right there to being able to get on the road and go on essentially a vacation. So Stone Memorial, 8-1. Jack Cordell has been a revelation for them.
Yeah. He had a great game against Pickett County last night.
Absolutely. So interested and excited to call this game
January
against
10th.
Loretto.
Sorry,
and the Upperman game.
Upperman.
Yeah, that one too. But this game with Loretto.
Yeah.
Because Loretto's size is on paper an area of problems. Because Tade's the tallest kid for Stone, but he's not a post defender. He can get in there, and he may have to on Saturday. If they can find a way to handle that size of Loretto, that raises the ceiling for Stone Memorial pretty significantly. We know they got a great coach in Neil Capps. They're going to be prepared. Maybe the best test so far from a perspective of if you can play with Loretto, you could probably play with anybody in the 3A class because Loretto would be a contender in the 3A classification.
Yeah.
So that apples to apples comparison.
You're also further into the season now.
Yes.
You're much more comfortably, okay, we can take a further look into these games.
And we don't know really what to make of Innsworth. Greenville, I think, is a tough one because Greenville was missing the football guys probably. And so all that sort of things. This is going to be the first real kind of apples to apples test game for Stone Memorial. But man, these two teams, they're really good. And we saw the wars they went to last year, and they very well may have a few more of those wars this year.
My goodness, those 3 games last year, with the exception of the first one, Stone Memorial just blew them out.
And even then, that game was way closer.
Oh, yeah, it was really weird.
We were into the fourth quarter, and it was tight, and Stone made every free throw in America. It was a great finish for them. But those two teams are so evenly matched last year, and we'll see if Stone can rise because Upperman's better than they were last year.
Yep.
So Stone's going to have to rise to that level.
All right, let's talk about this Jackson County team because they've been really impressive to start the year. They're 6-0. They don't have a blemish yet. They're one of 2 teams across the Upper Cumberland that are undefeated, Jackson County and Upperman. Got a big win against Humboldt last week. Humboldt made the 1A state tournament a couple of years ago. They beat them 72-40. They also have wins against Clay County and Gornsville. Now, the Clay County one was the first one of the season for Clay County, so you play that later on in the season, which they will. It'll probably be a little bit different, and Jackson County still might win it. Will McCrary, still a walking double-double, and he's got some other dudes around him. They're the favorite now in this 5-2A district, with York obviously a very different ball club, and then a very young Smith County team, which will probably challenge them for that top seed.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't win the district, which gives them a very good path to potentially making it all the way to Murfreesboro because you probably need to win this region. Not a great sub-state lineup on the boys' side. Much better on the girls' side than on the boys' side. And I think we kind of hit on this last week, maybe, or 2 weeks ago. Remember last year, the talk with Jackson was all of a sudden they started popping up on the screen. We saw Will McCrary start to really dominate ball games. Said, man, this is a really young team who's maybe a year or 2 away. Well, it's a year later.
Yep.
And now they're 6-0, and they've passed every test. I like how you weaved in that Humboldt made the state tournament a couple of years ago. Okay. We got some teams that made the state tournament a couple of years ago who aren't very good
They're
anymore.
6-2 this year.
I'm not discrediting Jackson at all. I don't think they've been really tested yet.
Sure.
Clay County later in the season, much better test than, as you mentioned, that first Clay County game. But the thing with them is, I think the record's going to be really good because they're not going to get tested a lot even in district play.
Yeah.
And so this is a team that will be playing with a ton of confidence that has the potential to rattle off a ton of wins. I mean, to have a ridiculously good regular season record. Could that hurt them a little bit at the end? Maybe, right? If they're completely untested, and I'm not saying they are, haven't memorized Jackson County's schedule, there may be a few mixed in there, but it will be very good for their confidence. And when a guy like Will McCrary, who stays tagging us on Twitter, I love it. All good.
Hey, we want those stats.
Absolutely.
So we want to know who's playing well and what the stats are.
I say that to say he is a walking double-double. Yeah. Every night it's double-double. There's a lot to like about the team in Gainesboro right now, which I guess you can't call Gainesboro. You got to call them Jackson County in this state.
Well, let's talk about Salina then. They're 3-1 to start the season after the season opening loss to Gainesboro. They finally got their football guys back into it. They're finally getting into basketball shape. Of course, this is a Clay County team. They made the semifinals again. Or excuse me, the quarterfinals again. So they were playing football just a few weeks ago. Nate Adams threw 4 games, 21 points per game. In the first game of the season against Jackson County, he dropped 33. So he's still really good at basketball. They've also gotten some really nice performances from Cole Eads, Lance Burchett, and Nolan Adams as well. So this Clay County team, they started to turn some heads kind of late last year as they started to find their stride. And now all of those guys have that year under their belt. And we expect Clay County to maybe challenge Pickett County for, again, that number 1 seed, and Gordonsville too as well.
Yeah, Nate Adams goes from being Mr. Football finalist runner-up to 26 points that night. I'm gonna give you a take right now. This is my dark horse team to go on a long run. Nobody's really talking about Clay County. We kind of texted back and forth with them today. I like this 1A classification. I like a ton about this Clay County team, starting with the head coach. Love Rob Edwards at head coach. They got a certified dude in Nate Adams. They've got some size. They've got Cole Eads, as you mentioned, Lance Burchett. They've got Nolan Adams. They got 5 guys. Last time I checked, there's only 5 on the floor. And a really good coach and a certified bucket. Tell me what I shouldn't like about this Clay County team. And absolutely. And Pickett County,
it's a really good
district. On the top 5, really good district, no question about it. So I'm not saying even they may not win the district, they may not win the region. Don't let this team hang around.
I will say this.
Yes.
You better win the region.
Correct.
Because Chat Prep is on the other side.
And Chat Prep should be a Division II school.
Correct.
Absolutely. This is my dark horse team. You told me pick a team, right? On our top 5. If Upperman's in the state tournament, wouldn't surprise us. If Stone is in the state tournament, wouldn't surprise us. Probably, I think both of them are going to end up going this year. A little bit better path than last year, hopefully.
Lawrence County's still pretty good.
Correct, but hopefully these 2 teams take care of business against and facing the district title game, so that way it's not a region semi. Because last year they both could end up making, would have made the state tournament. So hopefully that goes down. But that wouldn't surprise us. Pickett wouldn't surprise us. Clay County is my number 1 team.
Jackson would not.
Correct. Pickett County is my number 1 next team, or Clay County is my number 1 next team. Watch out for them to potentially be in the glass house at the end of the season.
Of course, Gordonsville made the glass house last year. Now, no Jay Foster. That obviously hurts, but they're still a good basketball team. And obviously, we're keeping our eye on them here at the start of the season as well.
Good point. What a district.
Yeah. Those top 3, really, really good. Let's talk about Cookeville a little bit. 3-3 to start the year. Obviously, a brand new team. 0 starters returned. They returned only Jaron Davis and Joseph Owens, who got significant playing time last year. Jaron Davis is really, really good. I mean, he is one of the top, I'd say probably 3 players in the Upper Cumberland this year, up there with Ty Cobb and Kate Capps. He is really, really good. You can disagree if you want to.
I don't know. Will McCrary is really good.
He is.
There's some good. I don't want to say no because I don't want to disrespect Jaron Davis because I agree he's a certified stud. My hesitation is only if we're saying bona fide top. Man, there's a Whoo, we got 3 really good ones. Those Cobb, Caps, and McCrary are
That's fair.
really good. So is Jarrett, no
Yeah.
question.
But
He's in there.
so they get the win last night on the road at Farragut, a Farragut team that was 6-2 to start the year, had a couple of losses to Webb, which Cookeville found out how good they are, and then Maryville made the state tournament last year. That was only a 5-point game. They beat them by 10 last year, and Farragut's got a bona fide superstar as well in Van Acker. I sent you guys the video. He
Oh, don't jump.
caught a body.
Oh,
Don't jump
Landon,
with
don't
him.
jump.
But it doesn't matter because Cookeville got the win. But this team as well, they're starting to get much more connected. They shot the basketball really well last night. Every time that Farragut would make a run, they're able to respond with a bucket of their own. Joseph Owens has really taken a step forward in his offensive game, was really kind of the defensive guy last year, and then he could get some things done offensively. Now he is starting to really, you can see the confidence in Joseph Owens taking it to the bucket himself, taking some threes and knocking them down. Walker Redding really knocked down some big shots. Bryce Heron is turning into a really good point guard with this team. They're starting to get a little bit more connected. The 2-3 zone looks better defensively. And we get a really good test with them coming up on Friday. They get an Oakland team that just took Upperman to the wire last week. Obviously, we think the world of Upperman this season. We're really going to get to see what this Cookeville team looks like on Friday.
Yeah, and I'll have this game with Jeremy, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I got no clue with Cookeville. I got no clue. And we talked about him at that 5 spot in the top 5 and that revolving door, kind of who's going to be that team. I want to see consistency. I got no clue. There's moments where I'm like, man, that team's better than I thought they were going to be. And then there's other moments like, I don't love that. I agree. Jaron Davis, certified stud.
To your point,
Yes.
so they lose to Tennessee Heat by 8 points on Friday, and again, Tennessee Heat's a good basketball team.
Yep.
Cookeville were up early in that game, and then just weren't able to get the lead late. They made some changes in the starting lineup. Jalen Dank, Walker Redding did not get the start against Farragut. They came off the bench both in the first half and the second half, and they both played pretty well in the game against Farragut last night. So maybe, and again, they're both sophomores, maybe trying to send a little bit of a message after that Tennessee Heat game, and it might go to what you're talking about with the consistency.
Yeah, and that consistency is key, and you're going to need it because listen, it's a different discussion with Cookeville. They're in Class 4A.
Yep.
They're in the top public class in the state, and they're going to have to face some really talented basketball teams within their district and within their region. So, yeah, it's you're grading on a different curve. Is it unfair? Sure. But it's just reality.
Just how it is.
Yeah. And can that consistent number 2 guy, who will it be?
Yeah.
Because the book's going to get out on Jaron Davis.
Yeah.
And you're going to start to see a lot of doubles and a lot of face guarding, and just it's going to be tough for Jaron. And he's so good, he's going to get his, right? Just like these other guys that we talked about. But they're going to need somebody else to consistently be there that defenses have to appreciate. And if they can get that, scary team. Like the 2-3 zone, I think that's a really smart move for them to stay in that 2-3 zone. Huge win. That's a huge win. And if they can parlay that into another win over Oakland, you're probably looking at a top 5 team on our list next week. So I got no clue right now on Cookeville. The book, I do not have a take on Cookeville. I'm super wait and see on the Cavs at this point in time because it's a totally new team. It's a totally new coaching staff. I like some of what I've seen. Obviously, I love what I saw last night. And I have a very open mind looking at Cookeville ahead of this next game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their losses. One is to Stone Memorial, our number 2 team in the UC Top 5. The other is to Webb, who very may well win that state championship in Division 2. And I think they're in 2A in Division 2. That team is they're really good. And then obviously the loss against Tennessee Heat, probably one that they won back. So right now they feel like they should probably be 4-2. They've got a chance to try to go to 4-3 on Friday and pick up a really good win, which would also be a possible region opponent.
And the only thing I would say is I really wish those 2 losses to Webb and Stone were tighter.
Sure.
They got, and Webb's really good. And
they didn't
Stone's
have
really
Joseph
good
Owens in that game as well.
But they got blown out in both of
did.
those games. So, if those 2 games were 5-point games, 10-point games, I feel even more confident. But right now, let's wait and see. It's December 11th.
That's right.
Championships aren't won on December 11th.
It's still early. And again, I got to emphasize, it is a completely new team, new head coach, new 5 starters. They're still trying to figure it out. Let's talk about the other team. That was a brand new team last year, still a fairly new team this year. White County, 2-5 on the year. We talked about it. The football guys are still kind of finding their stride. Tripp may be back by the end of this week. Nate Griffin has been leading the team in scoring. Lucas Dickerson has been up there. Tucker Pinion, he had 20 points last night in the loss against Cannon County. So they're still trying to find the guys. Obviously, Tripp is going to lead that team. Might be a similar situation where they're trying to find the number 2.
100%. Real quick, I'd love to broadcast White County. Need some sponsors, though. If you watch the Upperman games, you watch the Pickett games, you watch the Cookeville games, there's sponsors all over it. We've tried. I'm not going to beat my head against the wall. We got coverage, obviously, on the website, and Goose has been in a couple of Sparta games, but we'll do some. I'd love to do all. It's that simple. I mean, we're running a business, not a charity. So, I got a comment about it yesterday, and I get it. Like, I got no problem with the comment. I understand, but we do a really good product, and it's not free to put on. So that's it. But absolutely, Tripp Pinion back towards the end of the week. That's huge, and my headset's going to die, so I'm going to plug that in real quick. Just started beeping in my ear. Nate Griffin is a player we don't talk about a lot, who can jump out of the building.
Super athlete.
And adds in the element. And if Tucker Pinion can consistently give you that scoring when you get Tripp Pinion back, and listen, I know kind of I think people generally think of Tripp as football. He's a really good basketball player.
He is.
Like, a really good basketball player, guys. He's a great defender, but he's really good with the ball in his hands. He makes good decisions. He drives to the rim. He can dish it out. He's going to help them exponentially. And you got to give them a little bit of grace to this point. And also, they got a really good coach.
Correct.
So I expect this team to get a huge boost and to get a lot better once 3 is back in the lineup for them. And we hope that it can be as soon as this week. And they're doing the teddy bear toss on Friday night at halftime of the boys' game. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
There you go. All right. Well, that wraps us up as we get close to closing out here the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. Let's tell you about the upcoming broadcasts that we have this week. There's a good amount here at the end of this week. Coming up on Thursday, tomorrow, Pickett County is at Eagleville. That is a standalone game. Casey and Jack will be on the call of that one. Coming up Friday, we have 2 games. Oakland is at Cookeville, a game that we're really looking forward to. And then Cumberland County is at Pickett County. On Saturday, 3 games, all of them at Upperman. Stone Memorial against Loretto. Jack Bolden is going to make his play-by-play debut on Upper Cumberland Reporter with Noah McKay. Upperman girls will play Maryville for the second time this season. They beat them once already over at Morristown West. And then Upperman boys will play Tennessee Heat on Saturday. First game on Saturday starts at 2:30. And then 4, and then 5:30. So that's what we have coming up on Saturday. We don't have any broadcast games at the start of next week until everybody gets into their Christmas tournament starting on Thursday, the 19th, where we will be down in Florida, as Noah will be calling those games. And then
Man, it's going to be real tough down there at the Tampa Bay Invitation. I mean, really. It's going to be really tough for me. That next week.
You may also have to take a trip up to Columbus.
Oh, not maybe. I will be taking a trip. So I will be on the call for Saturday and Monday's games, or Friday and Sunday's games.
That's right. They're the 20th through the 23rd, aren't they?
Yes. So Friday and Monday, I will be on the call for those games, or Friday and Sunday, and then we'll have video coverage from the lovely Madison McKay on Saturday. Because I will be in Columbus, like I could lie and be like, oops, technical difficulties. I'm going to Columbus to watch Tennessee play Ohio State.
I think most people around here would understand.
I don't care if you don't.
If tickets weren't $1,000, I might be going to South Bend.
Yeah, well, that's a you problem. They're not $1,000 for Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I will be going to Columbus. And then I'll be flying back because I'm dedicated to the cause to Tampa and doing the games on Sunday. But yeah, I will be absolutely in Columbus, Ohio that Saturday. So apologies. I mean, we'll put it on video. It'll be good. But yeah, that's what's going on.
We'll be in Sparta for the Frank's Christmas Shootout as well for a handful of those games. And when we can put together a schedule, we'll definitely let you know about that. So that's what we have coming up tomorrow. Pickett County at Eagleville, 2 games Friday, 3 games on Saturday. Again, a lot of these games, most of these games are going to be over on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Upper Cumberland Reporter. Make sure you turn on the notifications, and then you can watch a lot of the games over there on YouTube YouTube as well. The game tomorrow night, yes, will be on YouTube. Pickett County at
Yeah.
Eagleville. Your game on Friday, Cookeville and Oakland, will be on YouTube, and then all the games on Saturday will be on YouTube as well. Anything else? He's just typing away there. Let's once more before we go thank all of our all-inclusive sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. Swallows Insurance, the Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, Domino's, the Quality Family, Watson Chevy. You're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, Amonette's Eagle Auction and Realty. Our show today presented by Fire and Vine. They're also an all-inclusive sponsor. Tee Up and Baxter, Goose and Noah were there today. They're getting their golf game right. The Real Estate Collective, Hull Sports and Outdoors.
Goose was not. Goose was
it's been a little while for
Woo! I started hitting it well in the back nine. Goose hat up. I'll be out there tomorrow again. I got to face the Chad Crouch and Les Delente. It's going to be a problem next week. Bobby McWilliams is going to tear me apart on a golf course next week.
Hull Sports and Outdoors and the Hall Family Pharmacy, Club Wyndham, and Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate. We appreciate all of those sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. I see the Buffalo emoji. I'm just going to assume that's for Indiana because they released their football schedule today. And for some reason, back in like the 60s, they used a bison or a buffalo, whatever you want to call it, as their mascot. So we'll just assume that's an ode to the Indiana Hoosiers.
I got one. It's Clark Range.
I'm sure that's probably right, but I'm going to take it.
Nobody cares about Indiana. Nobody cares about Indiana. Nobody.
We'll see coming up December 20th.
Nobody.
We'll see.
You're going to lose by 50.
I don't know about that.
You're going to lose badly.
We'll see.
Also, Tennessee is taking over the shoe. It's unbelievable how many people are going to this game. They try to keep us out. Good luck, buddy. We're coming. Go Vols.
Appreciate you tuning in to the first UCR basketball show, first official UCR basketball show of the season presented by Fire and Vine. We are full basketball from here on out. Appreciate you tuning in. That's Noah McKay. I'm Jacob Vincent saying so long, and we'll